What is going on, everyone? Today we're going to be doing the Silence of the Lamb movie poster. This is going to be poster number 2, and as you guys can see our work here, it is quite a bit of stuff that you probably haven't done before, but what's cool about this poster is that it's only utilizing 2 images and fonts. So a lot of it is just going to be Photoshop work effects, right? So these are going to be good effects that if you kind of get the hang of how to use them, you will be able to essentially create the movie poster, or be able to create other movie posters using similar effects, right? Because you're going to need a lot of these things. So first things first, we're going to create a new project. We're going to make sure that we are in inches, 16 by 24. We're going to title this movie poster tutorial, tutorial 2, and then press create, right? First things first, we want to make sure that we put about half an inch, so 0.5-ish. It doesn't have to be perfect for this particular one, but about 0.5-ish all the way around. So right around there. And then we're going to go ahead and start. So these are the files that you guys are going to download. You're going to have B style B and B style R for your fonts. Make sure that you double click those and put install. I already have them installed, so I don't need to, but double click both, click install. This is going to be the image for the butterfly or the moth that we're going to be using. And it's going to be the image of the girl, which is the first thing that we're actually going to be using. We're going to drop her in here. And then we're just going to, make her bigger. So I'm holding Alt to make sure that we can go from the middle area, Alt, and then bring her all the way to the top. Now, for this particular poster, I'm actually going to bring the movie poster out here so I can kind of see it. But you guys can follow along to my video. For this particular poster, we do need the forehead to be cut out and the chin to land somewhere in the middle-ish area, right? So we're going to zoom out right here, and then we're just going to stretch her out until we have a pretty wide shot, something like this. And we're going to bring her up here, maybe make her just a little bit smaller, and bring her here. So we don't want too much forehead, but we want just enough. And then this area right here is going to be where we put the title and all that. So we do want to have a little bit of area where we can kind of write our stuff, right? So we'll go ahead and press OK on that one, and then just kind of put her somewhere there. All right, so I'm kind of taking a look at my other one so I can kind of remember some of the things that I did here. But if I kind of go here, that doesn't really matter. That doesn't really matter. This doesn't matter. So this is going to be the first step. Then make her wider and then darker. Okay, cool. So the very first step that we're going to end up having to do here is going to go in here and then going into hue and saturation. Hue and saturation is essentially, saturation has to do with color, and you get to kind of like mess around with her as far as color. In the hue, the saturation is if you want it more black and white or more very vibrant. And then lightness, of course, is if you want it dark or if you want it very bright, right? So I'm going to reset all of these to 0. We also have a little feature right here that says colorize. So instead of like, going into here and making her look purple, even though you're in the greens, when you click colorize, it'll make her look whatever color you actually have it on, which in this case, we want to make her look a little bit kind of blue-ish in this area, but also kind of black and whitish, somewhere like that. And we also we do want her bright, but not necessarily in that format. So we'll kind of leave this as is and just kind of leave it something like that, give or take. A bit like that. Yep. You can actually copy the numbers if you want, but just as long as you kind of get it close, that's pretty much good enough. We're then going to add a levels blending mode, and then we're going to show you how this one works, right? So in blending modes, you notice that you have 3 little tabs right here that you can mess around with. One is dark, one is not that dark, and one is kind of bright, like a white, a gray, and a black. And that's exactly what each one of these do. So this one controls the blacks. So if I want to make the blacks darker, I can do that. If I want to make the grays lighter or darker, I can also do that. And if I want to make the bright areas brighter, I can also do that. So that is actually what we're going to do. We're going to make this so bright that we kind of lose texture in a lot of these areas, but we want to bring the mediums back because we do want some color in this area here and some color around the chin and the nose, but we don't want it pretty much anywhere else. So we want to kind of do something that looks like that, and just something like that. That looks pretty okay for me. And then we'll kind of work with that. I'm going to look at this one again one more time so I can kind of see what I'm doing here. So we have that and that. That looks pretty good. And then we have this one, which kind of makes it a little bit dark, which was what, another levels that kind of goes exaggeration into the darks. Okay, not bad. And then this one, which are the eyes. Right? Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and make this guy right here, which is our next levels. So we'll go ahead and do that by coming back over here, selecting this, and we're going to go ahead and add another levels, right? Another levels is going to be a separate one where we just kind of go real crazy on the darks. Something like this. Maybe just on the little dark areas. But one thing that we're going to do differently for this one is we're actually going to press here in our layer mask and press Control I. That's going to revert it so that it kind of takes it all away. And then we're going to grab the brush, make sure this is set to black, switch it to white, and then turn our flow down to around 3%. And we're just going to color it in here so that we essentially dictate where we want the dark areas to be. And we're going to kind of color a little bit in this area as well. A little bit here. And down here a little bit. So we can get some more detail in here, right? Another thing that we're going to add is we're going to create an empty layer. Make sure it's empty, and we're going to go into our paint bucket tool right here, select the color black, press OK, and then color all this with black. Make sure this is set to black and white right here, and we're going to go into filter, noise, add noise, and we're going to put it 110-ish is good, uniform and monochromatic. It's going to add this noise right here, and then you can go ahead and press OK. That's going to give it this little noise pattern effect. And then we're going to go into our blend modes, and we're just going to switch it to screen. And that's going to give it that kind of grainy look, like give it that old school look of an image, right? We're also going to grab this girl right here. This is going to be probably one of the hardest parts that you do in the video, but I'll kind of guide you through it. We're going to go to our selection tool, the marquee selection tool, and we're going to grab the elliptical one. This part is a little bit hard, so it's good that you pay attention in this area. When you like click and drag, right, this is going to be kind of ovalish and stuff. When you hold shift, right, it automatically keeps it as a circle, right? But obviously I'm not in the eyeball, so that makes it a little bit hard. But if you're holding shift and you also hold spacebar afterwards, you can then move it around. When you let go of the spacebar, you can continue to resize. So play around with that for a little bit and then see if you can kind of grab it, because we need to do essentially this until we get this kind of perfect, right? And then we're going to then go and select shift again. And notice when you hold shift, it turns into a plus sign, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Just like so. So now we have the eyes right there, and we're just pretty much going to do copy and paste. We're going to move the eyes to the top. That's going to give us this like look where the eyes look in color while everything else is in the bluish form. We're going to then grab our eraser. If you use the eraser, just be careful with it because the eraser will make sure everything's gone forever. And if you don't want to use the eraser, then just turn this into a layer mask and use the black and white brush. I'm going to go with the eraser and just erase the top part of this area. And then do the same thing here. All right, so now we only have that part of the eyes that are shown, and we're going to go in here, go to hue and saturation. Again, we're going to use colorize. We're going to go for a bright kind of orangey look, something like that. We're going to right click and put create a clipping mask. That's going to apply it only to the eyes, and then just kind of play around with it until you are satisfied with the look that you're getting. I'm pretty happy right there. Maybe just go into the darker tones, brighter, maybe actually. Something like that. That looks pretty good. And then from here, we can now work on the other steps of the video. All right, so from here, the next steps are going to be to make these eyes just a little bit darker, and you can do that again by going into your levels. Also, right click and create a clipping mask because you only want it to be applied to the eyes. You want to make the eyes just a little bit darker so that they kind of stand out a little bit, just like so. Pretty good. And then from here, we are going to start adding the area that kind of goes dark here, the butterfly and all that. So the butterfly is what's next. We can go into our settings, grab the butterfly, bring the butterfly in, press OK. Make sure that you remove background. I'm not sure if it does a perfect job with the butterfly. Let me see. Low-key, it kind of does. Grab the black and white area of your mask. Go in here with a brush. Make sure your brush is set to 100%. Make sure the hardness is set to about 90. Make it a little bit small using the bracket keys and just erase the areas of this part that you don't need. Right, so like anything here, make sure it's set to black. And then just go in here and erase the areas that you don't need. Boom. Pretty simple, not too bad. This right here, this area right here, and then a little bit right here, and a little bit right here, and a little bit right here. Perfect. I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna make a copy of this one, so Control J, that makes a copy, or you could always just right click and put duplicate layer right here and press OK. They both make a copy, right? The one in the bottom, we're going to right click, blending options, color overlay, and we're going to go to, yeah, like a dark blue. Here's the color that I got, 001619, if you want to type that in, and then go there. And then you're just going to go and move this with your selection tool. Select this one and move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just kind of moved it a little bit like this to create a shadow. Go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. We're going to blur the shadow a little bit. 9.2 seems pretty okay. And then just feather it out a little bit just to create a little shadow there. We're going to select both of them and just make sure that they are over the mouth. And we want to make sure that we make it a little bit bigger so it covers the mouth, right? Something like that. I do realize that like this girl doesn't look as dark as she should, and I made a mistake somewhere, but I can't really pinpoint where. Maybe it was me down here. I probably should have made it darker. Oh, those are her eyes, so those are good. Like this. Maybe something like that, I'm guessing. We do need to get rid of some of the white, the hair over here on this side. So we are going to be underneath this area, create a new layer, and then just grab a brush. Make sure the brush is white. Set it to 0 hardness, the flow around 15%. Make it bigger. Then just make sure it's white, and we're just going to kind of color in here so we can get rid of some of that. But we need to be careful not to kind of color in too much, because some of this area we're going to go in there with a new brush. Make sure it's black, and then just kind of color in here a little bit. because we do need this area to be a little bit dark. Something like that, right? And then we can grab our letters, type, go to the very top, and let me turn that on so I can see what it looks like. And we're gonna go ahead and go in here. Where did I do the... Where... Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong one. Where did I do the black and white? So this one, right? But I feel like this is not as black as it could have been. It's probably this guy, so we can... There we go. That's what it was. Drop the shadow a little bit. There you go. Not too bad. All right, cool. So now we go ahead and select this. Go ahead and go here. The silence of the lamps. You can copy the size if you want, about 96, give or take. Make sure it's there. Double click, go here, go to this one, make sure it's orange. We're gonna write a new one. From the Terrifying bestseller. Make sure that this is a font that is pretty like chill. I always use Made Tommy. It's just like my go-to font for pretty much everything nowadays, but something like that. Control T. Make it a little bit bigger. It needs to make sure that it fits perfectly with this. Guys, you all may think that I don't look at this, but whenever you all turn in assignments and like things like this are not like perfect, that's how I take off points, right? Because a lot of the times designs are made like that on purpose, right? Because that makes it look better. And so that's what I'm expecting from your work when you make them, because you know I want perfection from you guys as well. And so I want to make sure that you guys do that when you're designing. And then from this one, we just kind of make a copy of this and then just type Judy Foster / Anthony Hopkins / Scoff Glenn. And then make this smaller, 30. It's like freezing. And then this goes white. Yeah, my computer's freezing. I need to kind of speed this up a little bit, but make it a little bit bigger. Right around there. This goes here. And voila, we've got Silence of the Lambs. It doesn't look quite the same as mine. My original one, it actually looks a little bit different. Windows, arrange, and 2-up vertical. Yeah, my original one looks a lot better. I made the original one a lot darker, and I don't know how to achieve that effect on this one over here. But for the most part, kind of okay, kind of similar. We get the gist of it. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.